From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. I am Ben Hall. Good show tonight. You see these condos and homes going up all over Nashville, but who can afford them? The Metro Council has taken action on affordable housing, one of the big issues in the last mayor's race and certainly council races. Affordable housing. You hear it over and over. But is what the Metro Council is doing, is it enough? And is it even legal? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Happy to have with us Fabian Bedney, Metro Council member. He's chair of the Affordable Housing Committee. He'll be here for the first half hour. The second half hour, we'll have someone from the Beacon Center. They will come on. They have concerns about what Metro is doing, and is it legal, appropriate? Councilman, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
What's at stake? When we start talking about affordable housing, you're passionate about it. What's at stake here?
Well, in a way, it has to do with everything, touches everything in our lives. We talk about the old Nashville and the new Nashville. People that have lived in a part of the city for a long time that have a pressure to move away because they can't afford to live there anymore. People that are coming new to the city. We have about 80 people that move to Nashville every day, and that creates a demand for new housing. In turn, that creates an increased cost of living. And so there is a problem with finding affordable housing for our teachers, our police officers, our professionals, but also it puts a stress on our transportation, because people, like a friend of mine will say, people will drive till they qualify, so they end up living in the suburbs, and then they have to drive and park all the roads, and then we get increased traffic. So it's all creating a problem. It's putting a burden on our schools when we don't plan it properly. So we decided that instead of being reactionary, we wanted to be proactive, and it became a conversation subject for the last year. I was asked to be the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee in the council, and we worked really hard, and we came up with 5 pieces of legislation. People heard more about a couple of those, but I'm very proud of the work that the committee did.
So you've come up with 5 things, and we'll talk about those. But what you're saying now is that workforce, people doing police, fire, teachers, they can't afford to live in Nashville.
They can't. No. Recently there was a new apartment complex that was built, and the rent was going to be like $2,700 a month. I mean, that's just impossible for me. I don't know about you, but probably most people that are watching on TV feel the same way. There is a idea that people shouldn't spend more than a third of their income on housing, but many people are burdened to where they have to spend so much that makes it impossible for them to be successful.
Well, you hear in economics, supply and demand. So we're a hot city. There's tons of demand, so that's going to push the cost up.
Absolutely.
How do we deal with that? You have tons of people moving here. They want to live here, so naturally the prices are going to go up.
Yeah. So what we did is, when we saw that this was a problem on the last council term, the council decided to ask the planning department to do a research and to hire a consultant that did a study and to come back in 6 months with the legislation. And then we used that legislation as a base. We engaged with the community. In the beginning, there was a lot of pushback from people that didn't understand that they could actually help us make it better. When they came on board, it was so successful that at the end we had no opposition. Everybody supported the legislation.
Now the Beacon Center had some concerns.
They had, but I don't know, you'll need to ask them.
We'll talk to them more. All right, and the other question I have, when we talk about affordable housing, I mean, you're saying teachers, firefighters, police officers, they can't afford to live in Davidson County. But
yes.
What is affordable? You know, what is the level at which something is affordable? What are we talking about money-wise here?
To make it really simplistic, because it's complex, you take the average income of a family in Davidson County, and if they makes any family that makes less than 60% of that, they are at a poverty level different than if they are at 60 to 120% of that income. And so it's complex because it depends how many people live in the house, the combined income. What we are trying to achieve is that a family can actually live in a house and be sustainable, be successful.
So a family of 4 in Davidson County, the average income, do you know what it would be?
I think it's about $40,000, and so this will have to be between 60 and 120% of that, which means that that will be your typical police officer, your typical teacher, your typical person that is providing services to the community, but many of them can afford to live in a place where they are teaching or they are providing that service. Now, when they make less than 60% of that average median income, then they are the type of people that are in a dire situation and they need more help, and we call that type of housing affordable housing instead. The other one is called workforce housing.
So what are we talking about when we say, all right, so that's their salary. How much would this housing cost? We have deemed it to cost what? Or I guess a range. A range would be what when we're talking about affordable housing?
It will have to be a percentage of that average median income, and that's what the legislation spells out. It depends on the complexity, on what type of housing it is, and how many. I mean, it's because it isn't a simple. I know everybody asks me the same question. It's very hard to answer because it's complex. Because you are looking at how many people live in the house, how much money they make, where is this house located, what is the price of the properties around that area. You're looking at the price of property in Antioch is different than the price of property in East Nashville. So it will depend on each situation is different.
But it would be a percentage of income is what you're talking about.
Yes.
All right, and so almost everyone is for affordable housing. There's no one who would say, we don't want more affordable housing. But then people become uncomfortable when you start talking about mandating what people can do with private property. Essentially,
Absolutely.
That's what we're talking about here.
Yep.
How do you say to someone who wants to build several condos or whatever it is they want to build on their property, you have to do this?
Yes, we don't do that. We started thinking about it. The original legislation was more inclined to do that, but in working with this consultant, this economist, we came to realize that even though it sounded good, that in practice it didn't necessarily work. So we went to a more like an incentive-based idea, where we will give people an amount of money to offset the cost and get them to, if they are developing 100 units, for them to build a certain number of those affordable or workforce, and we'll give them the balance of the money so their performance will work, so they will be able to, like if it didn't matter to their bottom line. But for the people in Davidson County, it matters because now you have a dedicated amount of units that for like 15 to 30 years, they're going to be affordable.
So all right, what I've heard opponents say, it's unconstitutional because it takes people's private property and demands they use it to address a public problem.
Right.
Do you see it that way?
No.
You're taking somebody's private property. There's a big problem out there with affordable housing, no doubt,
Yeah.
and you're saying you have to set aside a certain number of units.
Yeah, we don't do that. I mean, that was the original idea. But like I told you before, our experts recommended against it. And through the process, we were very mindful. We didn't want it to do anything that will be in violation of state law. And state law says that you cannot do what you just described. So every step of the way, we made sure that our lawyers at the city and at the council were reviewing what we were doing to make sure they met state law. I mean, we get our power from the state and the federal government, so we don't want to do anything that is in violation of that. So basically, we created an incentive-based program. And what we did is we told a developer that is coming to us, I mean, let's say you own a property,
right,
and your property is zoned for like 20 units, and you want to build 1,000 units. So usually you will go through a rezoning process, and you'll talk to the neighbors, and the neighbors will tell you, I'm okay with that to a certain extent, but you have to put a buffer of trees here, or a sidewalk, or a retaining wall, and so we added to that list of things that we can ask them as a trade-off for the being okay with the rezoning, that we also ask them to also add some affordable or workforce units. And on top of that, we told them we'll pay for it. We'll help them offset the cost. So nobody's forced to get an upzoning or to get a change on their entitlements, but if they do, then many things kick in, including this one.
So now you're saying no one's forced, but they wouldn't get the zoning if they didn't do this?
Not necessarily. In some cases, the council member can overrule that. Or there could be parts of the city where this doesn't apply. This only applies in the parts of the city where there is a dire need. So, like if you want to build homes in Antioch, then this program doesn't apply because there is no need there. There is already affordable housing there. So if somebody wants to do it, they are not required to do it. This is mostly to incentivize in parts of the city where there is a huge issue with finding affordable workforce housing for people.
All right, we want to take a break.
Yes.
Jay and others, hold on the line if you want to call. There's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll take a break and come back and talk more about what's being done in the council and what lies ahead.
Sure.
Take a break. Be back right after this.